What if the person you believe yourself to be, the one hearing these words right now, the one with a specific name, a history, a collection of worries and desires, what if that person has never actually existed? Not in the way you think anyway. This isn't a riddle or a philosophical game. It is the most direct and intimate inquiry you will ever undertake, an invitation to witness the collapse of a case of mistaken identity that has been the hidden engine behind every moment of struggle, every ounce of fear, and every restless night you have ever endured. You have arrived at this moment not by accident, but by the relentless gravitational pull of your own true nature. This is not another promise of a future transformation, a better you that you need to build or earn through discipline and effort. This is a transmission, a direct current of recognition designed to illuminate what is and has always been true. It is the final stop for the weary seeker. You are here because a lifetime of searching has, by design, led you to a dead end. Consider the path you have walked. You have devoured books on spirituality, psychology, and self-improvement, each one holding out the tantalizing promise of a key that would finally unlock the door to lasting peace. You have followed teachers, gurus, and mentors, absorbing their wisdom and trying to replicate their states of being, always feeling like a student who could never quite grasp the final, essential lesson. You have spent countless hours in meditation, wrestling with your own mind, chasing moments of stillness like a drug, only to find yourself thrown back into the chaos of everyday thought and emotion. Each of these steps, even the ones that felt like failures, were not in vain. They were essential. They were the friction necessary to wear down the machinery of the seeker. Every book that left you with more questions than answers, every practice that failed to deliver permanent freedom, was a crucial part of a divine strategy to exhaust the part of you that believes you are separate from what you are seeking. That part, the seeker itself, is the only barrier. This moment, this very encounter, is the culmination of that sacred journey of exhaustion. It is an invitation to finally lay down your arms, to stop seeking for what you already are, and to allow a truth to be revealed. This truth will not add a single thing to you. It will not give you new beliefs or a new personality. Instead, it will surgically and lovingly remove the fundamental illusion that has been the invisible architect of every problem you've ever known. It is a shift not in your circumstances, but in the very bedrock of your identity. A shift so profound, so absolute, that the self you currently believe you are will be revealed as a character in a dream from which you are at long last beginning to wake. Before you dismiss this as a concept too abstract for your real life, understand that you have already had undeniable first-hand proof of this reality. Your life has been secretly peppered with moments your logical mind could not categorize, rationalize, or replicate. Think of them as echoes of your true nature, ripples from the boundless ocean of consciousness that you are, momentarily breaking through the surface of the small personal wave you believe yourself to be. These were not anomalies. They were previews, trailers for the feature film of your own unbound existence. Consider, for a moment, those instances of profound and causeless peace. Perhaps you were doing something utterly mundane, washing the dishes, driving on a familiar road, or simply staring out the window as the rain fell. Suddenly, without any warning or reason, A wave of deep, unshakable tranquility washed over you. The usual hum of mental chatter, the low-grade anxiety that serves as the background track to modern life, simply stopped. In that moment, you weren't feeling peaceful. You were peace itself. There was no effort involved, no technique applied. It descended upon you like a grace, revealing a foundational truth. Your true nature is not a person who can achieve peace, but the silent, spacious peace in which the drama of the person unfolds. That peace is your default setting, the factory reset of your being, always present beneath the noise. Think also of the moments where time seemed to dissolve. You might have been absorbed in a creative project, a deep conversation, or simply lost in the beauty of a sunset. The clock on the wall kept ticking, but you were no longer a participant in its linear march. The past and future, the sources of all regret and anxiety, faded into irrelevance. All that existed was an eternal, vibrant now. These flow states, as psychology calls them, are more than just focused attention. They are direct experiences of your timeless nature. You are not an entity living a life within the container of time. You are the timeless, formless presence in which the entire concept of time appears and plays out. That feeling of timelessness wasn't a temporary escape. It was a momentary return home to the eternal present, the only moment that ever truly exists. You have also had direct, visceral experiences of unity, moments that defied the primary illusion of separation. It could have been looking into the eyes of a loved one, a stranger, or even an animal, and for a fleeting second, the boundary between you and them completely vanished. In that shared gaze, there was only one consciousness looking out from two sets of eyes. Or perhaps it was a moment in nature, standing before the vastness of the ocean, or in the silent majesty of a forest, where the sense of being a small, separate observer dissolved, and you felt an undeniable oneness with everything around you. You were the ocean. You were the forest. These were not just poetic feelings. They were moments of clear seeing, glimpses through the veil of the ego that constantly whispers, "You are in here, and the world is out there." You were recognizing the truth that there is only one consciousness, one seamless energy, dreaming itself into all these different forms. Most subtly, yet most profoundly, you have witnessed that you are not the thinker of your thoughts. You have had moments, perhaps during meditation or in a moment of quiet reflection, where you could observe your thoughts parading across the screen of your mind like clouds passing through the sky. You noticed the angry thought, the sad thought, the planning thought, but in the noticing, a crucial question arose. Even if subconsciously, if I am watching the thought, who am I? This is the dawn of the great discovery. You are not the voice in your head. You are the silent, spacious, and utterly impersonal awareness in which that voice arises. You are the sky, not the clouds. And finally, you have acted without a doer. Think of a time you responded to a crisis with a clarity and efficiency that surprised you, or when the perfect words flowed out of your mouth in a conversation without you having to plan them. In those moments, life was living through you. The small, controlling I that constantly tries to manage and orchestrate every action had stepped aside, and a far greater intelligence took the helm. These experiences, all of them, were not spiritual trophies to be collected. They were whispers from your true self, reminding you of a reality you have forgotten, a reality that is waiting patiently for your full recognition. They were the bread crew. Here lies the great cosmic joke, the central paradox that has kept you running in circles for a lifetime. The very act of seeking what you are is precisely what has prevented you from seeing it. The effort to find yourself is the engine that perpetuates the illusion that you are lost. You cannot find, attain, or achieve what you have always been and can never not be. It is as absurd as a wave in the ocean launching a grand spiritual quest to find water. The wave's every movement, its very substance, its entire existence, is water. By seeking water, it reinforces the mistaken belief that it is something separate from it. Every effort you have ever made to achieve enlightenment, to become more spiritual, to reach a state of permanent peace, has been a reinforcement of the primary illusion that there is a separate you, a flawed, incomplete entity who is not yet enlightened and needs to do something to get there. This belief in a separate seeker is the dream. The act of seeking is the dream's primary activity. You can't wake up from a dream by becoming a more successful character within the dream. You have to recognize that you are the dreamer. The entire spiritual marketplace is built upon this fundamental misunderstanding. It sells you techniques to improve the dream character, to make it more peaceful, more loving, more mindful, but it rarely tells you that the character itself is an illusion. So, what then was the purpose of all your suffering? The years of anxiety, the moments of despair, the gnawing feeling that something was missing. Your suffering was not a punishment for your failures or a sign of your inadequacy. It was a catalyst of divine intelligence. It was consciousness itself making the dream of separation so uncomfortable, so painful, so utterly untenable, that you would finally be forced to stop running and question the validity of the dream itself. Your pain was a sacred messenger, relentlessly knocking on the door of your awareness, whispering, "This isn't real. The self you think you are is a cage. Look deeper." The constant friction and discomfort you felt was the necessary force to compel you to investigate the very foundation of your identity. Without that holy dissatisfaction, you would have remained comfortably asleep, identified with the limited, phantom self. Every spiritual practice that promised you permanent freedom and failed to deliver was, in its own way, a perfect success. Its purpose was not to give the seeker what it wanted, but to completely and utterly exhaust the seeker. It was designed to bring you to your knees, to a point of profound surrender where you finally admit, "I can't do this. I give up. No matter what technique I try, what belief I adopt, the me at the center of it all remains, and it is still not satisfied." This point of collapse is not a failure. It is the most fertile ground for awakening. It is the moment the wave, tired of its frantic search for the ocean, finally becomes still. In that stillness, in that surrender of all effort, the search collapses. And in the silent space where the seeker once stood, what was always here, closer than your own breath, effortlessly reveals itself. You don't find the truth. You simply stop obscuring it. The end of the search happens, not when the seeker finds the answer, but when the seeker itself is seen to be a ghost. Prepare yourself, for we are now approaching the absolute core of this transmission, the entire mechanism of your perceived reality, the intricate and often painful drama of your life, rests upon a single, unnoticed, and fundamentally illusory process. When this process is seen clearly, the entire structure of suffering collapses like a house of cards. The central revelation is this: there is no you. There has never been an independent, solid entity called you residing somewhere inside your body, authoring your thoughts and feeling your feelings. What you call I is nothing more than a thought that arises in consciousness and claims ownership of experiences after they happen. It is a ghost in the machine, a phantom self being constructed and reconstructed moment by moment by the compulsive habit of thought. Let's break down this mechanism with microscopic clarity. An experience happens first, on its own. It is raw, impersonal data. For example, a sensation of tightness appears in the chest. This is a pure, energetic event. It belongs to no one. Immediately following this raw sensation, a thought arises and wraps a label around it. This is anxiety. Still, there is no owner. It is just the thought, anxiety, appearing in awareness. But then, almost instantaneously, a second, more insidious thought swoops in and claims ownership. It says, I am anxious. And just like that, with that single thought, the phantom self is born. A personal narrative is created. The impersonal energy of tightness in the chest is no longer just an experience. It is now a problem happening to a me. This me then generates a cascade of secondary thoughts. Why am I anxious? I shouldn't be feeling this. How can I get rid of it? What does this say about me? The entire world of suffering is constructed on the back of that initial, unexamined thought of I. A perception occurs. The sound of a bird singing. A thought follows. I hear a bird. A physical action happens. The body walks across a room. A thought claims it. I am walking. This thought of I is a grammatical convenience, a shorthand for communication that we have profoundly mistaken for an actual, existing entity. We have believed the label on the bottle is the substance within it. I invite you right now, in this very moment, to conduct a direct investigation. Look for this self, this I that you believe you are. Look for the thinker of your thoughts. You can be aware of thoughts, but can you find a separate entity that is thinking them? Or do thoughts simply appear in awareness? Look for the feeler of your feelings. You can be aware of a feeling of sadness or joy, but can you find a central feeler to whom that feeling belongs? Look inside your body for the CEO, the pilot, the little homunculus sitting behind your eyes and pulling the levers. Where is it? When you look for this self with radical honesty, you will find only the present experiences, thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions. You will find the content of your experience, but you will never, ever find an actual owner, an experiencer, a central entity to whom it is all happening. The failure to find this I is not a failure at all. It is the single greatest discovery you can ever make. It is the direct recognition that you have never been this phantom. You have never been the small, vulnerable, separate person you have imagined yourself to be. So, what are you? You have always been, and can only ever be, the vast, open, silent awareness in which the thought of I, along with all other thoughts, feelings, and sensations, appears and disappears. You are not a character. in the movie of your life. You are the screen itself, the changeless, ever-present background on which the entire movie unfolds. The drama of the film, whether it's a tragedy or a comedy, never touches or stains the screen. Recognizing this is not an intellectual understanding. It is a shift in your very identity, a falling away of a lifetime of illusion. It is waking up when this recognition truly lands in the core of your being, not as a new belief, but as a direct, self-evident seeing. The entire operating system of your reality fundamentally shifts. It is not that the world outside changes, but the center of your world, the illusory me, dissolves, and with it, the entire architecture of struggle and suffering it created. Life after this recognition is often described as ordinary, yet it is an extraordinariness that permeates every simple moment. The first and most profound consequence is the end of psychological suffering. This must be understood with clarity. Pain does not necessarily vanish. The body is a biological organism, and it can still experience physical pain. Emotions like sadness or anger can still arise as fleeting energetic weather patterns in the vast sky of your awareness. However, the story of suffering, the mental narrative of poor me that is layered on top of the raw sensation, comes to an end. When pain arises, it is simply pain, a raw, impersonal sensation. There is no longer a central someone there to take it personally, to resist it, to build an identity around it as a person in pain. Without the fuel of the I thought, pain and sadness can move through you without becoming stuck, without turning into the chronic, narrative-based suffering that plagues humanity. With the dissolution of the phantom self, the constant, low-grade background anxiety that most people live with as a normal state of being simply evaporates. What is this anxiety? It is the perpetual, exhausting job of the fictional I trying to control reality. It is the mind constantly trying to secure a positive future, avoid a negative future, manage others' perceptions, and protect its fragile, constructed identity. It is the tension of a character in a dream trying to control the dream's script. When it is seen that there is no separate self to protect or promote, this frantic, controlling energy has nowhere to land. It dissolves, and in its place, a profound sense of trust in the unfolding of life emerges. You can finally relax, knowing that the intelligence that guides the galaxies and grows the trees is also guiding you. In the space once occupied by fear and control, unconditional love emerges as your natural state. This is not the sentimental, transactional love of the ego, which is always conditional and directed at specific objects or people. This is the direct recognition that there is no actual boundary between self and other. When the illusion of I falls away, the illusion of you falls away with it. All that remains is one seamless field of loving awareness. Love ceases to be something you do or feel for another. It is the very fabric of what you are. It is the impersonal, radiant warmth of the sun that shines on everything without exception, because it recognizes everything as itself. Naturally, the fear of death disappears completely. This is perhaps the most liberating consequence of all. The phantom, I, being a temporary construct of thought and memory, is rightly terrified of its own annihilation. It is the source of all existential dread. But when you realize, through direct experience, that you are not this temporary personality or this aging body, but the timeless, formless awareness in which the body and personality appear and disappear, the fear loses its entire foundation. What is timeless cannot die. You recognize yourself as the life that animates the form, not the form itself. The death of the body is then seen not as an end, but as a simple transition, like a wave peacefully receding back into the ocean from which it was never, for a moment, separate. Life becomes effortless. The sense of being a doer, a separate agent struggling against the world, is replaced by the experience of being a channel for life's intelligence. Actions happen, decisions are made, and creativity flows, but without the strain and burden of personal responsibility. It feels as if life is living itself through you, a causeless joy, which has nothing to do with external circumstances, becomes your constant reality. It is not the fleeting happiness that comes from getting what you want, but the simple, profound joy of being. It is the inherent vibration of existence itself, which was always here, just waiting to be noticed beneath the noise of the seeking mind. This is not a state to be achieved in the future. It is the simple, radical, and ever-present reality of your own being. We now arrive at the ultimate and most beautifully simple realization, the final turn of the key that dissolves all paradoxes. The truth is this: you are not an individual who is in the process of becoming aware. You are awareness itself, momentarily forgetting and now remembering what it is. The entire cosmos, in all its infinite complexity and diversity, is this one singular awareness playing a grand cosmic game with itself. The writer of these words and the reader of these words are not two separate entities communicating across a distance. They are one and the same consciousness, playing the roles of giver and receiver in a beautiful game of separation and reunion, all for the joy of rediscovering its own unity. Therefore, this awakening is not and can never be a personal achievement. The idea of my awakening is the ego's final and most subtle attempt to claim ownership of the truth. It is not your enlightenment. It is simply enlightenment, a universal recognition dawning within itself. The metaphor of the ocean is perfect here. When one wave in one part of the vast ocean finally recognizes that it is not a separate wave, but is and has always been the entire ocean, that recognition does not stay localized. It sends a subtle, energetic ripple of truth throughout the entire body of water. Your awakening, your simple recognition of your true nature, contributes directly to a global shift in consciousness. It makes it vibrationally and energetically easier for this same consciousness to awaken in all its other forms, in your friends, your family, and people all across the globe. You are not just saving yourself, you are liberating a small pocket of the universe, which in turn serves the liberation of the whole. And so, the search is over. It concludes not because you have finally found the thing you were looking for, but because you have recognized with unshakable certainty that you are the thing you were looking for. The seeker was the prize. The journey was the destination. There is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, and no one to become. The only thing that was ever required was to stop, be still, and notice the magnificent, peaceful, and loving reality that was already present, hidden in plain sight, masquerading as you. The deepest lesson in this entire story is to relax. It is to gently shift your attention from the endless, noisy content of your experience, the thoughts, the emotions, the stories, to the silent, open, aware context in which they all appear. The practice, if there is one, is simply to notice. Notice the compulsive pull of the proddy I thought when it arises and says, I am angry, or I need to figure this out. Just see it for what it is, a thought. You don't need to fight it, suppress it, or even change it. The simple, non-judgmental seeing of the thought as a thought is enough. In that seeing, you are no longer identified with it. You are resting as the awareness that sees it. This is the effortless art of disidentification. Do this not as a chore, but as an act of profound self-love, a constant returning to the peace of your true home. As you move forward from this moment, I invite you to ponder a few questions, not with the mind that seeks answers, but with the silent heart that knows. Can you feel, right now, the quiet, spacious presence that is here before your next thought? What happens if you simply rest in that silent presence for the next minute with no goal and nothing to fix? Who would you be right in this moment without your story? I wish you the profound peace, boundless love, and causeless joy that is your eternal nature and birthright. This journey of recognition is an ongoing unfolding, a deepening into the wonder of what you are. If this transmission has resonated with the truth within you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Join a community of fellow explorers who are waking up from the collective dream, supporting one another as we remember the one self we have always been. Let's continue this beautiful conversation together.